As AI gets more and more fluent, as it gets better and better at talking to us, there's this huge question that's starting to loom over everything. It feels like it's straight out of science fiction, but honestly, the consequences are very, very real. So, could an AI ever actually be conscious? Let's really dive into this. To get to the bottom of it, we're going to walk through a really compelling argument from the neuroscientist Anil Seth. And what he does is challenge some of our most basic fundamental assumptions about what it even means to have a mind. But here's the thing. Before we can even ask if an AI is conscious, Seth says we have to understand ourselves first. We need to face these powerful human biases that honestly make us want to see minds everywhere we look. And that last one, language, oh, that is a huge one. Think about it. For basically all of human history, if something spoke to you fluently, it was a pretty safe bet there was a conscious mind behind those words. Today's AI? This might be the very first time in history that signal is actually misleading us. So to get past these biases, Anil Seth says we need to make one crucial distinction. And this distinction is really at the absolute heart of this entire debate. Intelligence is all about what a system can do. Solve a math problem, write a poem, fly a plane. It's about performing a function. But consciousness, that's a whole different ballgame. It's about what it feels like to be that system. Is there any subjective experience happening inside it all? And Seth, he really boils it down for us. Consciousness is what we lose when we fall into a deep, dreamless sleep, or when we go under general anesthesia. And it's that same thing that comes rushing back the moment we wake up. It's the feeling of, being anything at all. Okay, so if an AI isn't automatically conscious just because it's super intelligent, then why are so many people so convinced that it could be? Well, it all comes down to one really powerful and, frankly, very popular idea. This is pretty much the dominant theory in tech and in a lot of science fiction. The fancy term is computational functionalism, but you can just think of it as the software assumption. The idea is that consciousness is basically just a really complex program, and if you run the right consciousness program, it shouldn't matter if your hardware is made of brain cells or silicon chips. But what if that whole idea, that core assumption, is just wrong? This is where the case against AI consciousness really starts to build steam. See, the closer we actually look at a biological brain, the less it looks like a digital computer. You can't draw a neat line between the hardware and the software. The messy, physical, biological stuff, the wetware, is completely tangled up with what the brain does. It's all one deeply integrated system. And this right here, this is the perfect way to think about the problem with the software assumption. Just think about it for a second. A super detailed, incredibly powerful computer simulation of a weather system will never, ever be windy. It'll never actually get anything wet. Why? Because it's a simulation. It's not the real thing. So why on earth would a simulation of consciousness be any different? The only way a simulation of a brain could actually be conscious is if consciousness is this one, magical, unique thing in the universe that's purely computational, unlike almost everything else. Unless that's true, a perfect simulation of a mind wouldn't create a real mind, any more than a weather simulation makes real wind. Okay, so if consciousness isn't just software, then what is it? This leads us to a really profound alternative view, that consciousness isn't about computation at all. It's about the very nature of life itself. And here's the big idea. What if consciousness is something that emerges from the fundamental biological processes that define every living thing? It might bubble up from the constant, messy business of just staying alive, the metabolism, the constant self-repair, the sheer, simple fact of being a biological beast machine and not just a thinking machine. Now, you might be thinking this is all a fascinating philosophical debate, but why does it really matter in the real world? Well, the answer to this question has absolutely enormous ethical stakes for our future with AI. Getting this wrong in either direction is really dangerous. If we have a false positive, if we start giving rights to a non-conscious machine, that could seriously complicate our ability to control and align AI safely. But on the other hand, a false negative, failing to recognize consciousness where it might actually exist, risks repeating a tragic and historic mistake we've made before. So at the end of the day, this whole perspective suggests something really profound. Maybe our consciousness isn't just something our brain does, like a program it's running. Instead, it might be deeply, inseparably tied to the simple yet absolutely wondrous fact that we are alive.